Hello, my name is Peter Maharaj, the host of the Red, White, and Fast podcast. This is a series that I've put together very raw with our talented athletes, specifically in the sport of track cycling, to share their story. Hopefully, it provides you some motivation and to hear and get a better insight into what the athletes actually are dealing with, overcoming their ups and downs, peaks and valleys, for their journey and success through their endeavors for becoming the best in the world and being a dominant force in their respective fields. And more importantly, being an inspiration for the younger generations of this beautiful island of Trinidad and Tobago. Over the next few weeks, I'll be posting more of these podcasts, and I hope you like, subscribe, and join to listen to their stories and continue to provide support for our very talented athletes. Today, we kick off with episode 1, which is with Njisane Phillip, our 2012 and 2016 Olympian. I'm very proud of this young man and what he's been able to achieve, overcome, and find his bearing again in his success. He's doing wonderful, very strong, very ambitious, and as always, a very pleasant young man to be around. And next week, we'll hear from other talented athletes as well. So I look forward to hearing these stories and, of course, sharing it on the different platforms. So we'll be available on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts as well. So let's get ready. Let's start with Njisane Phillip. Thank you. I'm your host, Peter Maharaj, and today we are sitting down with someone I've had the privilege of knowing not just as a fan, but as a witness to history. In 2012, I stood trackside at the London Olympic Velodrome as team manager for Trinidad and Tobago. And I watched a young man from Superior, Trinidad, quiet, focused, impossibly fast, finish fourth in the men individual sprint and seventh in the keirin at the Olympic Games, fourth in the world at his first Olympics. That young man is Njisane Phillip. What followed was a career that put Trinidad and Tobago on the global cycling map. World Cup medals, Pan American glory, 2 Olympic Games, and then a retirement that felt premature to many, including, it turns out, Njisane himself, because he came back. And 2 years after walking away from competition, Njisane Phillip returned to the track and set a new personal best in the process. He's now preparing to represent Trinidad and Tobago at the UCI Track World Cup in Hong Kong, while also building the next generation of Trinidad and Tobago cycling talent through his JLD Cycling Academy. This is a conversation about resilience, reinvention, and what it means to love something enough to come back to it. Njisane, welcome and thank you for sitting down with me and taking the time as you get ready to depart
Thank you for having me.
for your long journey to Hong Kong.
Thank you.
So, Jay, now I know you officially retired in 2022, and what feels like and what it felt like, was a for you. Tell if you can share what life was like after the bike.
uh, for me, it was good in the beginning. The first 2 years, it was good. My body got a lot of time to heal. My mind not having that pressure. Just years and years of being under pressure and stress of performing and just dreaming and always putting myself in that realm. So for 2 years, I was just able to just relax myself, spend time with my family, my kids. Um, and it was good just being home in Trinidad, relaxing. It was enjoyable. But after a while, I started to really miss my bike. I missed the sport. I seen, my teammates doing really, really well. Nicholas Paul, he was just flying the flag, winning all over the world. And I was real missing it. And not just that, but just team sprint. I always thought that we always had real potential in a team sprint, and Trinidad could really qualify for a team sprint. So
Right.
this last shot is kind of team sprint slash, fulfilling my last little destiny.
Okay. I know from 2010 when I first met you, you were very gun ho. You're a great starter. You've always been, and I know that that whole mindset of team sprint as being the driver, and especially having a coach as Jamie Staff.
Yeah,
It's hard not for that to rub off onto to you.
for
So
sure, for
awesome,
sure.
man. So now 2 years later, you're lacing up. You know, what you answered the question, but if you could just dive a little bit more, what actually pulled you back into the sport itself?
Um, well, I was missing it, and then I started coaching. Actually, I started my cycling academy in Trinidad called GLD Cycling Academy. And I started off with two of my athletes, two of them actually that came from triathlon. One was like super triathlon, and the other one was triathlon slash karting. So it was a really, really nice transition, going on the road, riding with the girls, and just teaching them the basics. And they were really committed. They were really committed to the sport as well as their parents, So it really, it really got me in tune to it again. And then it's just seeing the parents as well be so invested into it. I got a lot of flashbacks from my dad and my stepdad being with me and just pushing me all the way. Because for cycling, cycling is a sport that you have to have support, not just financially, but that family support goes a long way.
Yeah,
Mentally in the game, it's I would say it's a savior.
yeah,
So yeah, just basically falling in love with the game again, teaching the basics to these youths, and then as well just falling in love with it again. And then, yeah, I just got a spark, and I say, let's do it. Let's do it.
that's so true. I mean, it's you know in our time together, we always used to talk about having that fun, as a kid, getting on your BMX and just making figure eights or making, whatever, doing crazy jumps on a bike or something like that, and enjoying the feeling of freedom. Has
Yeah.
always been is it's that initiation, is that having that childish drive back on the bike. So that's awesome, man. That's good, and it's nice that you've rediscovered that. Now you laced up and you went and you set a new personal best, right, in Turkey, right?
Yeah.
9.4, man. Holy crap.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you know did that surprise you, and how did that feel?
um, it definitely did surprise me. I mean, turns out that it is the fastest track in the world. Um, but for me at that age, just coming back, being able to see that, I'm right there with some of the best guys in the world still.
Yeah,
Um, it feels good, just to be competitive still and still fighting with them. It's good
yeah,
after taking such a long break away from the sport as well.
yeah. Awesome, man. Congrats on that. And I know when you were in LA and I came out, you did it 10-0, right? And now it's
Yeah,
LA is not Turkey, and yeah,
yeah,
that was your fastest that I think you've ever performed in LA.
yeah. In LA, yeah,
So you get faster with age, you're like fine wine, things that's good. So awesome, man.
I like that.
Exactly. Okay, tell us a little bit more about JLD. What is the
Yeah.
vision? When did you start it, and what does it actually mean to you now, at this time in your life?
Well, JLD has always been around. It was uh my clothing brand. From since 2010, I think. And JLD Cycling Academy, I think would have been around before we even really established it on paper. From before with my boys like Varun and Bramble coming up through the ranks in Sonics, just trying to structure something,
Mhm.
from everything that I learned from Jamie and all of the guys back home from Velocity, just trying to kind of put something on paper for the guys back home, a better structure. And, we got some success here and there, and, it just always came back down to structure. So I was always interested in the coaching aspect of cycling as well, and how I can make a difference in my country, just being able to just see firsthand, right? Prior to me coming on the scene, Mr. Gene Samuel would have been the one that would have been to the Olympics. So to be able to come back and do that feat and just revamp cycling in my time, I would say, it was a big responsibility, right? And I took a lot of pride in that at the time, and I always wanted to see Trinidad winning all the time. That was always one of my passions, right? Just being the lone soldier. I always wanted to have a team. I always wanted to have like team pursuit riders where we could sit down and eat as a team and mesh. It was always myself and you, Peter, just sitting there, and it's hard, it's
It's tough.
athlete slash manager slash coach, right?
Yeah.
And that relationship is different compared to athlete on athlete. I can lean on your shoulder. I know, hey, we have team sprint tomorrow. You had to do your position. I had to do my position. So meshing and just releasing that tension amongst each other is
Yes.
good. So I always wanted team, and GLD was just a kind of thing for me to start building team, building structure, building development in Trinidad because again, every year the techniques and improvement in cycling, now guys are going 8-8. It's crazy. Back in my prime I would have been doing 10-2.
Yeah.
So every year it's going a tenth and a tenth. And I mean, even the women going 9-9 now is incredible. So the science behind the game now is just so much more than just having natural talent, right? Just
Correct.
it's so much more than just jumping on the bike and hey, you have skill. So a lot more structure and development that has to go into it now if we really want to be world class and compete with the rest of the world.
Dating back to our time when you used to ride a 180-inch kid, that was big gear, right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest gear we used at the games in 2012 was, I think it was like 112 or something like that in one of the races.
Yeah.
That the sport really started, I won't say accelerate, but really going on a different trajectory. But everything from what the British cycling was doing back in the Beijing games,
Hmm.
on from stitching of the clothing and the sleep and foundation stones and the psychology of the athlete, has really evolved over the past decade, and we're starting to see the benefits of those efforts
Hmm.
across the board. And right now, the gears the guys are using, for both qualifying in a sprint or competing in a sprint event, to carrying to even scratch races, and the young ladies themselves. I mean, they're peddling the gears that we used to use
Yeah,
back
yeah,
in
yeah.
2008, right? 2010, 2012. So you've been described as the man who has revived track cycling in Trinidad and Tobago.
Mhm.
Does coaching feel like the continuation of that legacy, or something entirely different?
I would say it's something different, because I think in my time would have been a different time. I mean, I even think now with Nicholas Paul, I think it's his time, and it's a new generation too as well, right? Because again, I would like to say that because of the gearing. Back in my days, I would say the gearing would have been a 103 to maybe a 110 cap, right? And now in this modern day, which he would have been into, would have been that 115 to that 130 range. Now I think it's the success that I've been getting within my coaching and in jail, the Cycling Academy is with the female, right? Which is something new for Trinidad. We always had great male sprinters and great, as of recent, endurance riders, but for female sprinting, it's a whole different ball game, and just being able to set up a blueprint for that, it's exciting things, and I really want to see more women be involved and see how we could really develop that program in Trinidad.
Yeah, awesome, man. I mean, you've done a wonderful job. And this next question that I have here for you is really about Mackie's. You've been credited with her development.
Hmm.
What does that actually feel like to watch your rider that you've shaped compete at the world level, and especially as she goes into this new Olympic block?
um, I mean, it's always exciting, especially our success at Junior Worlds was really, 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 really exciting times, just being able to go there and compete at the highest level, and it was a real cool feeling, and then just all the hard work that we put in, again, the support system from her family, her dedication, her sacrifice. I think she really bought into the plan, and she really followed the plan for that 2 years, because when we started, we said, hey, first Junior Worlds, we're going to go to Junior Worlds, we're just going to go to Junior Worlds. You're going to participate, no pressure. We're just going to go see what it's like, see what the girls are, basically just data, you know? And then next year, we're going to try to do our best, right? We're going to look for a top 10 performance and try to see as best as we can. And we was able to get a double silver. We messed up in the sprint, but it was a really, really, really cool feeling, just for Trinidad and just giving Trinidad ladies that hope. And it was all done in Trinidad. She was developed, trained, everything in Trinidad.
Yeah. And she will be Mackie will be a future guest on this podcast series, and we'll touch a little bit on her scheduling and just a little bit more about what it was like to actually do that at that age and trying to take those big steps, because it's the discipline, as like
Hmm.
it's tough. It's tough to go from like a normal life, if whatever that definition is, to now being very structured in early gym.
Yeah, and not to cut you off, but exactly what you said there, just that dedicated life and that structure, and how I set it up is just basically how I did it myself, from a junior Pan Ams to hopping into the elite to start collecting the points to set it up year by year. And it's been working, I think that's something that I learned, training with you guys and Jamie, is just the smaller the things, the little marginal gains that we could gain,
Right.
we maximize. And I think that's something that I cherish even to this day, like explaining to Maki, doing your mobility, that little 2%, like we could be lazy and just lay down and just don't do nothing. But let's just say we really do the recovery. Let's say we really do take the shake. Let's just say we do, that extra 45 minutes of extra work goes a long way. That 1%, 1%, 1% really pays off, right? And I think she really bought into it early, and I think that's why we were able to see such gains,
Yes.
you know? She saw them early. She tried to capitalize on it. She tried to maximize on it, and it's been great.
Awesome, man. For the viewers of this podcast, I'm chuckling a little bit because Jasine was it's like he's like my son. You're like, come on, we gotta go. We have to get going. And to hear him speak from this context right now gives me great pleasure. So,
Yes, yes, yes,
congratulations and thank you.
yes.
So
For
now Hong
sure.
Kong, you have a history at Hong Kong. You were there back in 2016 as
Mhm.
part of your Rio qualification campaign. What does it feel like to return?
Um, Exciting. Just being able to go out there and race. We're actually doing team sprint as well, so I'm really, really excited to go out there and race with the boys and see how we do. I mean, I definitely think that we have a great team, and I think we could do a top 8 performance, which is what we want to do to set up the Olympic qualification for 2028. Um, and then mixed feelings, because I'm going as both athlete slash coach slash returning uh returning vet, I would say.
Okay.
So a lot of nerves, a lot of excitement, but just really enjoying the process, and I really enjoy being able to do both, just kind of be here with Maki on her journey and her process, as well as kind of live out my last run. So it's really, really enjoyable. It's really enjoyable.
Nice. That's good. That's good that you, again, like you mentioned, about finding that inspiration on both, not only as an athlete but also seeing that as a coach, manager, and psychologist, and everything else that goes along with the area of responsibility. Awesome, man. So how is your preparation different this time around? I mean, it's been a few years, and what have
Mm.
you learned about your body over the past few years?
Um, that's a really, really good question. I would say, I mean, the body is really, really resilient, I would say. I have a lot of doubt to myself now as an older athlete compared to when I was younger. I think younger I was a lot more fearless, not worried about a lot. Now I take a lot more on my plate. I stress a lot. I overthink. All of those old things we used to talk about
Yeah.
when I was 19 years old, and I was like, nah, you're just old. Right? So being able to really balance that now, right? And I think it's all techniques, and it's kind of bad because I'm speaking about it, but it's hard to take my own advice, right? Overthinking still, and still not believing 100%. If I'm 100%, if being 100% honest, that doubt, it's a lot more doubt now than before. And after my competitions, I kind of digest it a little bit more to say, well, nah, look, like we survived the whole thing. We did super good. Like everything that we were doubting, we were able to do. So, but I think that comes with more competition, as well as putting that pressure on myself. I put a lot of pressure on myself from the past, but it's hard being an athlete, and being a top competitor as well. It's something with the mind, and it's always with the mind. So balancing that mind now in my later stage, I think is the hardest part of the journey this time, I would say.
Okay. You know, I think we were having a conversation earlier. I think it was yesterday or so, and for the audience, I shared what you're saying. It's easy for me to be on the other side and just say, go, just go. I mean,
Mhm.
it's. But I know you. I've
Yeah,
I've seen you do amazing rides. Um, I'll go back to Czech Republic. It's a Grand Prix, but remember that guy from where it was from Turkey, I think, or
yeah.
I mean,
Greece, the
yeah,
young guy from Greece.
he was
Yeah.
whoever he was. I can't remember his name. He was crafty. Oh, yo. Found found a way, and the Trini came out. Um, there's a rhythm I've always shared with what you're saying, and it's almost like the calypso beat that's in our blood. And Jay has that. He has his posture on the bike, and he has that ability to really get not only the bike to have a rhythm too, but the crowd gets so involved, and it's amazing to see that when you set the track record in Colorado Springs, and then winning the sprint. I think it was Sunderland that you went up against, and then you came back the following night and you won the Karen as well. You did a clean sweep, so track record or U.S. national record together with those two events. I still remember that night when you accelerated out to turn three, coming for Bell, and I saw the move taking place, and you fit through a pocket. I still don't know how you managed to go from. I think you were second to last or so, and then suddenly you were between three and four. You were leading, and I'm just screaming inside, and I realized, crap, this is a 333 track.
We're going long.
You're going long, but the thing is, your best always comes out when you are able to push yourself to that point, to extend yourself and put
Yeah,
yourself into that uncomfortable environment
yeah.
of your physical strength and bringing everything out every inch. If you remember, you collapsed after that race, your legs were cramping, and that's good. I like to see that your legs collapse back in Czech Republic, and you continue to find that. I'm not saying that you have to collapse in order to have victories, but you've pushed yourself so hard. So I definitely would. I admire the fact that you start to measure risk, but your
Hmm.
best, you have the capacity. One of the least things that you want to ever take away is at the end of a race, and you say, "I could have gone or done better."
Hmm.
That's a tough thing because you don't get the opportunity to do second chances very often in this sport. So, what are your realistic goals for this Hong Kong trip? You mentioned about the team sprint just now. Talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah. So, goal for that would be top eight in the team sprint. I think that's going to be a good indicator for myself as well as the boys, as well as by extension the federation and ministry sports slash sport company.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get a little bit more. support and people rallying behind us. So a top 8 team sprint. I really want to do top 10 in my sprint. Um, yeah, and just make the finals in the Karen. And the finals would be 1 to 12. So you know what I mean. Even the 7 to 12, I would definitely take it as well. Just again, top notch, high quality racing.
Nice.
So
Same.
yeah, just survive.
Too.
To come out surviving. You know what I mean? In one piece.
Correct. Correct. So,
So
well,
yeah.
yeah, that those are good goals, and those will be a good measurement of where you
Mhm.
are. Um, and then as you progress, you'll be able to see some areas that you need to adjust along with
Yeah.
the rest of the events, upcoming events. So awesome.
And then the following week we do the Malaysia World Cup as well. So back to
Okay.
back.
Back to
Yeah,
back.
yeah, yeah.
Malaysia has, is that a new track?
It's a new velodrome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's
Nice.
gonna be my first time there actually.
Nice. Now I
Yeah.
know you're going to experience some heat and humidity. Oh my gosh. Sorry. I know the Philippines has just opened a velodrome as well. Brand new track.
It looked really good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Times look really fast there as well too.
yeah, they do. They do. Now, you touched on sport company and TTCF. What
Hmm.
does Trinidad and Tobago cycling need at the moment for this Olympic block?
I would say like a coach, or I would say, you know what I mean? I think now it's a little bit too late to kind of speak Olympic. I think the only hope that we kind of have still is just team sprint. Obviously, the individual events are still open, but I think it's really, really late now, you know? So again, us going and racing next week is kind of going to open a little bit more doors and leave a little bit of hope still on the table, which we're hoping to do.
Okay.
But for the future, I mean, we need proper management and structure. That's always been Trinidad's biggest problem. I mean, when we had Aaron Hartwell in Trinidad, we did such a good job. He had so much structure and had such good things in place that we were able to develop at such a rapid rate. Nicholas Paul being able to break the world record at that time, and
Correct.
9-1 at that time was unheard of, and we were training right there in Cuba. So I think the talent is there. We have the velodrome, we have everything in place. It's just having that management structure, coaching
Yeah.
aspect.
I,
We really, really need that.
yeah, I fully agree with you. I mean, dating back again to the time that I first met you back in 2010, the only tracks were, of course, the Remo.
Mm-hmm.
You had
Gonna
grass
pass.
track in Skinner Park, in San Fernando. And then I don't even know if the grass track is still available, but that's definitely not one of those tracks
Yeah.
for Olympic block. So at least Ray and I got a track now, which is great.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
progress. You just need to have the structure, the coaching structure. So awesome.
Yeah.
Now, if a young kid in Siparia,
Hmm.
anywhere in Trinidad and Tobago, is watching this, someone who sees themselves in you, what would you tell them?
I would say, I would say, work hard, and it's always work hard, and a lot of kids always hear work hard from somebody that they look up to, but hard work is definitely the backbone of everyone's success, regardless of talent or anything. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice to get from point A to point B. And I think once you have a passion for it, you sacrifice your time and you go all in for it and hope for the best. Hope for the best. Cycling has always been my passion, and I've always pushed for it, even in tough times, and it's blessed me in a lot of ways. I was able to see the world and seen so many things and learned so many things. So I'm very, very thankful for it.
Yeah. I agree with you with a couple things there. Hard work is definitely, it's kind of like in the DNA. Cycling itself, athletics, and I've always said about Trinidadians or individuals from the Caribbean, but I'm Trini and I'm proud to be Trini.
Yeah.
It's like almost as though you we grew up with cycling in the blood. But one of the key things, hard work is a good sort of general statement, but structured hard work is what gets you to that goal, and that's
Yeah.
important. Mentors like yourself and the academy, and that is really important in really building the future generation of competitors on the world stage.
Yeah.
Jay, you know, you've called your team the thing that reignited that spark. What does that
Mhm.
word spark actually mean to you?
Say that spark. That spark would be when I'm riding around in the velodrome. You know what I mean? When I'm not thinking about anything. You know, that's the only time when my brain is literally off. I'm not thinking at all about anything. Just literally on the blue line in my own world, not thinking about nothing. That's what the spark is.
Okay.
You know, just enjoying myself free. Free.
That's awesome, and that's what the bicycle offers, and it's such a lovely piece of equipment. And you know,
Yeah,
when you're able to have that talent and you're having fun, oh my gosh, life is beautiful at that point.
for sure.
So, Justine, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your
Thank you.
schedule because you depart tomorrow morning to Hong Kong. Long
Yeah,
journey. I want to wish you and the entire team great success.
thank you very much.
I know you're going to do well. You know, as we will always say, don't hang up. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah, for sure.
you
For
want
sure.
you want to definitely bring your best effort, and I know you're going to do that. Um, so success to you, to Mackie, to the rest of the team, making sure that you achieve your goals and be safe. You know, you want to come back with that drive and preparation. So back to back, as you said, the World Cup, and um, enjoy this this World Cup series that you're about to kick off. So, anything else you want to share with listeners?
Thank No, thank you. Thank you very much, for having me and all the best. I'm looking forward to the next episode and hearing about, what my teammates have to say and about their journey.
Yeah. So for the rest of the listeners, this is Njisane Phillip, Olympian, great guy, just ambitious, just fun to be around. He's part of a series called Red, White, and Fast. It's a podcast that is really capturing the essence of Trinidad and Tobago cyclists, the fastest in the world, the best in the world, and their journey towards achieving their goals, but also bringing forward Trinidad and Tobago to the map of competitive track cycling, both sprint and endurance. So, just saying, thank you. Good luck to you. And I
Thank
appreciate,
you.
again, your time this evening.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.